Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of my first show. Oh, my guest. Where do I start? A heartthrob, a incredibly talented individual, one of the purest and biggest hearts on Broadway and in Hollywood, a dear pal, and someone I am so excited to be talking to for the next hour, MikeFaist. Welcome,
Hi,
Mike.
hi Eva, how's it going? Thank you for having me. How cool is this? Congratulations.
Well, it turns out that when you're a Broadway producer and Broadway closes, you have some time on your hands.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we all have to kind of try and wear new hats at the moment, don't we? Yeah.
Yes. And, I love a good bowler hat. So the one I chose was the Fosse inspired podcast.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Well, I've listened to a couple of your episodes and I just think it's wonderful what you're doing. And I don't know,
oh,
super fun. And I mean, I'm such a huge fan of yours and, I just think
that's
you're wonderful. And so when you asked me to be on the show, it's just, oh, yeah, of course. No problem. Duh, of course.
Oh, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's
No,
it's
thank you.
really just a moment to just to look back and think about, especially when the world's so dark right now, to think about yesterday and
Mm,
how beautiful it was to be who we were as kids and in our formative years and draw that line. So, it's line drawing time, and I'm thrilled
mm.
to draw yours. You came into my mind most. You come into my mind a lot, I will say, especially when I'm listening to the Dear Evan Hansen soundtrack.
Sure.
but
Sure.
you came into it most recently because I had a meal with both my mom and your godmother a
Yes.
few weeks ago, and she let me know how you're doing, and as I start every episode and every conversation these days. How are you doing?
That's an interesting question, isn't
It
it?
sure is.
Well, I mean, it's so crazy, how the two of us are connected because we were connected, of course, on in our industry and through Dear Evan Hansen, and that's really how we met. And then we kind of
Yeah.
found out through that oh, we had this other connection randomly through our families, and our
I know.
people who matter a lot to us in our lives,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of like this really cool thing. How am I doing?
Safe space. Safe space.
Yeah. No, I'm very fortunate. Uh, I mean, everyone's been having a crazy time and trying to wrap their mind around what any of this is or what we're
Yeah.
supposed to do about it. And it's kind of this strange in between place of waiting
Yeah.
sometimes. It kind of feels like we're just kind of on
Yeah.
pause and sitting and waiting. And then at the same time, I don't know, we're trying to take advantage of the moment a little bit and
Yeah.
maybe try new hats on or, do things that never really occurred to us before. Yeah, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
for me personally, it's the pause has been nice, to kind of step away from
Yeah.
our industry in a little bit and just kind of be a person.
Yeah. 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 Which we
you
forget
know,
about.
totally. So I've taken advantage of it as much as I could. I've done a bunch of driving around the country actually, and just yeah, I've been camping and just seeing different parts of this country, um,
Mm.
and just been, I don't know, sitting down and just seeing the different areas and different people and what people are how examining like how people are reacting right now
Yeah.
because of all of this, and it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know. It's super fascinating. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm doing my own little John Steinbeck travels with Charlie a little bit. I like just packed the car and I have my dog and we're just like going
Yeah.
around and
Yeah.
seeing this country in this lens right now.
And what has been the most surprising thing that you've witnessed?
Um, you know, I think I didn't really fully realize just how vast and broad this country really is. I mean, if you really think about it, it's kind of a miracle that this is a single
I
country.
know. It's so true.
It's so crazy because, like the I don't know. I stopped in this. There's a place in New Mexico called Pie Town, New Mexico, and literally Pie Town, New Mexico only consists of like two general stores that sit right next to each other that sell pies, and like that's it. And it's a really, really, really small town, and I think it's off. It's just off like old Route 66. So it used to be, I think, a much more popular kind of quick place to stop for drivers that needed a restroom break and wanted a cup of coffee and a slice of pie. And, I was talking to one of the shop owners and seeing how they were doing. And they're like, yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but, they're doing their best. And
Wow.
I think overall, everyone's kind of just being positive and just making do. And I don't know, just doing what they can to
Yeah.
keep on keeping on. But I mean, the people. I don't know. I never really fully understood. I guess just the vastness
Yeah.
of everything and how different every little section of this country is. And the people in Python, New Mexico, need different things than the Hasidim in Williamsburg, and
Right.
it's we just don't realize that we don't. I don't know. I don't know. It's just been interesting.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I think this pandemic has taught us is that we are more connected than we ever knew and ever
Hmm.
faced, and frankly, more similar than we ever knew and ever faced.
Yeah.
Um, and that adventure that you've been going on is kind of the perfect microcosm for what the world is going through. Is
Hmm.
I had no idea about this, so it's fascinating to hear, but it's making me think that you are going through different cities and different states, and you're realizing that there are so many differences, yet so much connecting us all because we are still one America. We're one Earth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
we're one civilization, and
Absolutely.
so much divides us, but we're actually all more alike than than we realize. I think
It's yeah.
the Borat movie sort of tells you that story. I don't know if you've seen the new
I
Borat
haven't
movie.
yet. No, I have not yet. I have not yet. But it is, and it's really like it's truly a miracle. It's a miracle that this is a United States of America. It's really like it's kind of unfathomable that like it operates at all.
Well, as we talk about this one America, let's turn back to little Mike Feist, who grew up in Ohio. If we want to talk
Yeah,
about like the state that sort of is a referendum on the country and all it
yeah,
can be.
yeah.
Tell us about your upbringing, and tell us about the first show you ever saw.
Mm. Well, I mean, I had a great upbringing. I was adopted from birth to my mother and my father who raised me, and my older sister who is about 8 to 9 years, depending on where we are in the year, older than me. And then there was my godmother and her children that I also grew up with as well. And that was kind of like that was our tribe. Those were the
Mm.
people that we grew up with, and they always, I don't know, we all really loved each other a lot, and we supported each other a lot. And of course, like family dynamics are weird, and everyone's like nothing's perfect and what have you. But I grew up watching old MGM films, and I kind of fell in love with Gene Kelly, and I just remember pestering my mom to get me into dance classes, at like a young age. And I feel like I can't really remember exactly maybe what the first live show I ever saw was. Um, but I do think that my first Broadway show in New York was, I think, maybe Fosse.
Ah,
Yeah, interesting, right? Um,
yeah.
and I think like I remember going back home one time and looking through old playbills, and I saw Chris Catelli's photo in that. And later on, like realized, well, and for people that don't know who Chris Catelli is, Chris is an amazing choreographer director in the Broadway community, and he choreographed Newsies, which was my
Mm,
first Broadway show. Um,
wow.
and that was really cool to, I don't know, see that interconnected tissue kind of. But yeah, I think
That's
Fosse was maybe
amazing.
my first Broadway show. Man, it was a blast too.
It's a good first. It's a good
Yeah, well,
first.
it's super fun, and it's just these awesome numbers and
Yeah.
celebrating this artist's life and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, I have
That's
so many.
really, I think, the first one I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have a couple questions about that. So, first off, you are not the first guest of my first show to pull out a Broadway playbill years later of their first show they ever saw and realize they have worked with someone in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Barrett,
How do you
Barrett,
think that makes the person that was in the playbill feel?
well, Barrett Wilbert Weed had that same experience with Carrie Butler when she realized on our show that her first show was Beauty and the Beast, which Barrett then starred with Carrie Butler in Mean Girls with. So
How
that was
crazy,
hilarious. And I
crazy.
love this idea about you and Gatelli having that connection. We are big Gatelli fans around
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah. He's
Um,
wonderful,
he's
truly.
he's the best.
Yeah.
But I'm so fascinated that your first Broadway show was a dance-based show because we know we know you best, I should say, as brooding,
That's what I was
beautiful.
about to say. That's literally what I was about to say. Brooding actor.
Of this brooding, beautiful, soulful actor because you do it so well. And I think everyone who either knows you personally or is guessing, about you from hearing you right now is like, he's a very joyful dude. So, like, talk to me about your love of dance and classic musical theater and that world of MGM and how the roles you play are actually often the opposite of that.
I know, it's really interesting. I don't know what that's about. It really is interesting. I think like there's just as a kid there was just like such an amazing escapism with,
Yeah.
especially within those older MGM films. They're so, I don't know, they're magical, and they're, I think those films, they were live. They were doing it. It's
Yeah.
not like how movies are made today. And even in later, maybe not even going that far back, but then looking at movies like Indiana Jones or something like that. There's just like this, I don't know, playfulness, and hyper reality where you're allowed to like escape and,
Mm,
I don't know, kind of like be a part of it, in a weird way. I don't know why. I don't know. That's the power of just like art, and I think movies and and writing and television shows and theater too. But yeah, I loved the idea of like dancing, and I
mm,
loved to dance, and I loved songs, and I loved musical theater, and I loved to like dance around the house and like sing songs, and I loved that, and I loved like playing pretend. I loved doing that. So I always kind of knew like, oh, I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to pursue this thing. And it at first really was this. It was just like, oh yeah, musical theater. It was really all I knew because it was what I
mm.
did growing up, like in children's theater and things. I think that's the most popular kind of,
Yeah.
um, maybe availability for younger people, and the most like interesting, I think, for younger people too, musical
Yeah.
theater, because there is all of those elements of song, dance, and acting as well.
Hmm.
And then I think I don't know. I think it was really when I moved to New York and I started studying at the conservatory program and meeting my teachers and my peers, and I started to really become interested in humans. And like especially humans that are deeply flawed.
Mm,
Um, and what makes them human, kind of like why they are the way that they are. And I don't know, there's something that draws me to that. Yeah, and I think that was really, I don't know, that was the thing that really attracted me most to Dear Evan Hansen too, was because I think it was very easy for people to just say, "Oh, so Connor is a bully," because we all fall in love with Evan Hansen and Ben's character so easily, and
yeah.
that's in part because of Ben and his performance, and that's in part because of Steven and his writing, and obviously
Hmm.
Benj and Justin and their music, and just everything about that character. And it's very easy as an audience member to just say, "Oh, that kid's the bully, and that kid's getting picked on."
Right.
And then you kind of, but what I loved about Dear Evan Hansen is that um, we show that like it's not
Yeah.
that's not the that's not the whole story.
That's right.
And not everybody gets that, but maybe they feel that on like a subconscious level, or they're able to, I don't know, feel something. But I don't know, I think for me what's so interesting is to just pose a question to an audience,
Yeah. That's really
and also not shove any sort of message down their throat, but simply just like ask a question.
yeah.
um it's
Yeah.
important to me. Yeah.
That's what good storytelling is.
Yeah, I think so.
What was the first show you were in?
Hmm. I think the first show I was in was Wizard of Oz, and I played one of the Munchkin Guild guys, the Lollipop Guild. That's what it is. So I was doing I wore like goatee and a mustache at like 8 years old, and had crazy bushy eyebrows and rosy cheeks, and was like this crazy, I don't know, Benjamin Button tiny man. It was like, and yeah, that was one of my, I think that was my first show, was being a Munchkin in the Lollipop Guild.
Do you remember which solo line you had?
No, couldn't
No.
tell you.
Okay.
Couldn't. Do they have solo lines? I don't
Yeah.
even. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
They
man.
would step forward and they would sing, not all of them, not
Yeah.
all the Lollipop Guild, but
Right.
some of the Lollipop Guild would step forward if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a
And
while.
well, then if that's the case, then I probably didn't have one. 'Cause
Sorry.
it's okay.
You did okay.
I did all right. Yeah. I blended in really well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
I think that was probably my first show. It was maybe like 8, 9, or 10 years old, doing Wizard of Oz.
And where was that, a community theater or school?
Yeah, yeah. It was children's theater, community children's theater in Ohio, in
Nice.
Columbus. Yeah,
Ah, nice, nice, nice.
yeah.
And so what was your first professional show then?
So I moved to New York at 17, and I was going to a conservatory program. And then I dropped out of that conservatory program, and um, was just doing odd jobs, and I wasn't really auditioning. I was kind of too terrified to audition and put myself out there. And it was a friend of mine that kind of dragged me kicking and screaming to an audition. And it was, funny enough, White Christmas, um, at a dinner theater in Ohio, back in
Oh my God. You
Ohio.
come to New York to go back to
Yeah,
Ohio.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I did that holiday season. I did White Christmas as an ensemble member at a dinner theater in Ohio, and I lived in the back of a McDonald's parking lot, and I got paid like $200 a week, and then I was collecting like food stamps at the same time, and
Wow.
that's what I did. That was my first gig.
Wow. Wow. Non-equity, I'm
No,
imagining.
no, no, no. No way. No way.
And that was the start of kind of your Gene Kelly, MGM fascination
Yeah.
professionally?
Yeah. I mean, well, it was, I think, I don't know, I like stepped away from dancing for such a long time. And then there was these little things that were making me dance again. And then after that, did a series of 3 different shows in New Hampshire at a small theater there.
Which
Um,
theater?
it was the Palace Theater in New Hampshire,
In
um,
Concord, New Hampshire?
Manchester.
Manchester, New Hampshire. I am
Yeah.
from near there, so I went to a lot
Oh,
of those theaters.
oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So this was in Manchester, and it was, um, I don't know. It was a series of 3 different shows.
Mm.
2 were 42nd Street and Hairspray.
Mhm.
And then the third one was this show called The Four Piano Men, which was like this dance song medley
Mm.
of who was it? Stevie Wonder, Queen, Billy Joel, and Elton John, of just like
Wow.
all their hits. And so like it was what, 2 hours of just straight dance your face off to awesome rock music.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I was like dancing for a while, and I was just in the ensemble, and for a while I was just thinking, well, this is my way in, I'm a okay enough dancer where they're getting me into, I'm getting ensemble jobs. And
Yeah.
then after New Hampshire, I booked Newsies, where that's what I was doing. I was in the ensemble of that. But yeah, and so
And
that was kind of like my way in, was through
yeah.
dance.
Yeah, which is kind of exciting and I guess predestined that your major movie arrival is going to be
Yeah.
in the film of West Side Story, which is the the dance musical of our generation, of all generations, frankly, of American musical theater's generation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like booking that, did that just blow your mind and just
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know, it was kind of crazy because I was doing a play, so I was done with Dear Evan Hansen, and now I was doing another Stephen Levinson play, actually, off Broadway at Second Stage, called Days of Rage.
Mhm.
And that was a play about basically the the Weathermen Underground,
Mm.
during the 1960s, and the
More
there's a
brooding,
couple.
more brooding.
Yes, more brooding, more brooding. This was more satirical, which I appreciate. But yeah, I remember we were in production for that, and I just remember my agent calling me and being like, "Hey, so they want you to come in, and they want you to dance with all the guys." And I had like submitted a tape prior, I don't know, 4 months before that or something like that. And I just remember being like, "Oh crap," because because I hadn't danced at that point now in like 8 years,
Wow.
and I was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be all these amazing dancers, and then me, and I'm just going to make a fool out of myself. This is gonna not end well." And so I remember even asking, like, "Is there a way we can like not have to dance?" They're like,
Oh,
"No, you gotta dance, man. That's West Side." And so
I'm an
I,
actor who moves.
yeah, that's really how I felt. But I remember it was I went in to the audition, and the choreographer for West Side is Justin Peck, who's
No big deal.
no
Nope.
big deal. Oh my gosh, he's
Oh my
wonderful.
God.
I mean, I didn't know who he was. I
Mm,
thought, as a
yeah.
choreographer, he's close to my age, and we kind of have very similar body types. We're both tall and kind of all arms and legs. You know, and so I started like seeing him move and seeing what the movement was. And
Mhm.
I honestly, I think I lucked out because Justin and I are similar body types, the way he choreographs and what his movement is.
Mm.
Um, I felt like, oh, I can do this. I can not only I can do this, but I can do it, I think,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. You can embody the movement in the
I
way
think
it's meant to
so. I
be.
really I benefited by
Mm.
having Justin as the choreographer. Not only is he brilliant as that, and he was also extremely willing to listen to me and hear
Mm.
pushback from me in moments and pose a lot of questions and do what I felt like I needed to do. But he
Yeah.
was also him and his partner Patricia are just the two
Mhm.
kindest people ever, and they were extremely patient with me, not
Mm.
only as from a creative point of view, but from a teaching me the movements and getting me comfortable with it. Yeah, I totally lucked out with that, and I would never ever say I'm an amazing dancer. I don't think that at all. I really don't. And I don't think that that's the case in this either. But I know that those boys, man, they're just incredible. And
Yeah.
not only are they incredible dancers, but they're amazing storytellers and just
Yeah.
amazing, amazing artists. Yeah.
And I imagine, like everyone listening to this podcast, you grew up and loved the original West Side Story film.
Yes.
So, how much pressure and and struggle did you have recreating that film every day in throughout that process, knowing that you were going to be the next 100 years version of Riff, the way
Yeah.
I'm blanking on that actor's name, but I can see his face perfectly.
Russ Tamblyn. Russ
Russ
Tamblyn. Yeah.
Tamblyn created
Yeah.
that for all the generations before us.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I couldn't think about that.
Yeah.
I remember this was our first day of rehearsal. I remember I grabbed all of the jets and I took them out and we went to grab a beer
Mm.
and we got, I don't know, tacos and just a bunch of food and we just sat down and I remember kind of like really we're all just messing around and hanging out, and then I just remember like stopping and told everyone and I said to them, hey, listen, this is our version, like this
Mm.
is our chance to we have to take ownership of this,
Yeah.
um and because it's us at the end of the day. Now it's us, so it's our version and it's your version and what you want to do. And kind of from that day, those boys immediately followed me.
Mm.
And there was this, I don't know, it was a really amazing process. And the work that we did as Jets was everything. It was everything I've always wanted in terms of how I wanted to work.
Mm.
And Steven really allowed me the liberty to run as wild as I possibly wanted to. Um, and and everybody just hopped on board with me.
Mm.
Um, and I'm so grateful because they lifted me up and they propelled me forward, and then we propelled each other forward. And that whole experience was, here is this community and here is this family
Mm.
of guys who really are dependent on one another, and they're codependent, and it's unhealthy, and it's everything that they know, and it's all filled with love and fear.
Yeah.
And that's where we lived that
Mm.
for that year, for the entirety of that year. That's where we lived. And I don't
That's
know, that it was immerse.
yeah.
It was everything I kind of hoped to do as an
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah. I mean, not to be too poetic, but you danced on a razor's edge, it sounds like, doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you learned you know, in the future life, you could be a gang leader. Apparently, you had what it takes.
Yeah. Who knows?
It's just
But
skills.
yeah, I don't know. I never, I guess, but to really answer that question, I let go of any pressure to have to be any sort of way. And I just remember being, this is who I think this person is. This is what I think he's thinking. And this is it, and this is everything that I want to do. And, you know, um, I'm just going to run with that
Yeah.
and, trust that the powers that be are going to point me in the right direction too. And they did, they just let me run wild.
I'm not going to ask you what it's like to work with Steven Spielberg, the legend, because everyone else, I'm sure, has asked you that question.
Yeah.
But
But
give
how is it?
give me something, just something surprising or is there a story from set? I mean, come on, it's Steven. And I
I
told
know.
you, we can swear here. It's Steven
I know.
fucking
I know.
Spielberg.
I know,
What?
I know. It really is. It really is. I mean, here's the thing about Steven. Steven is. I said this when we were doing towards the tail end of our shooting. We were doing these little EPK interview things,
Mhm.
and I mean, here's a guy he is Steven Spielberg, and he is kind of like King Midas. Anything he touches turns to gold, and he has everything.
Yeah.
He has everything, and none of that matters.
Mm.
He is like this person who is filled with joy and love,
Mm.
and he just loves what he does, and he loves what he's working on, and he treats it with the utmost care and love and respect.
Mm.
And there's no agenda. There's
So great.
nothing. It's just the pureness of doing the thing. And that was it, and that was contagious and infectious. And I mean, truly, like West Side, we were in a cult. We all drank the juice and we got converted and we had a
Yeah.
crazy experience. And
Yeah.
then we had to like leave that world, and here we are in a pandemic,
And wait an extra freaking year to have it come out and live it. I know.
Yeah, I mean, but Steven is. I mean, Steven. Yes, he's a master storyteller, and yes, he's an amazing director. And as you know, he shaped the industry, and yes, he's done all of these things. But at the end of the day, Steven's just a guy who loves what he does.
Mm.
Steven's just a guy who's like trying to pursue art, and art that makes him happy, and art
Yeah.
that there are stories that he wants to tell. It's really simple.
Yeah.
It's really, really simple. And I think for a lot of people, especially people that are trying to, I don't know, get their foot in the door and start make things happen for them, that feeling, like, never, I don't think it ever goes away. I think there's like always this constant of, well, what's next, and like, how can I move forward, and what do we have to do? And I think for this person, here's this guy who has an abundance of everything. There's this art in letting go of having to feel the need to do something,
Yeah.
and just paying attention to what feels good, what feels right. Um, and I think he's mastered that. And I mean, it's really, I don't know, it was an amazing thing to just observe him do that and just be him.
It's dream time. Um, if you could be in any show, anywhere, at any time, what would it be?
Oh man. If I could be in any show, anytime, anywhere, what would it be? I don't know, man. Um, maybe it would be like, I don't know. Sunday in the Park with George is pretty amazing. If I were to like do that, so if I could
As George, right?
replace the beautiful Mandy Patinkin, and no, but like no, I don't know. That's such a crazy thing to ask. I think it's more. I think it's more just like it's just about chasing whatever that feeling is, like whatever we talked about prior to this. So like whatever
So let's
that
create
like
it. Let's create it
yeah,
right now.
well,
It's
but
Sunday. It's with
yes,
who? It's
sure.
where? Talk like
But
let's make it
yeah,
happen. But
sure. But I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to say it's this like one
mm,
specific thing
hmm
because I don't know what that looks like until it just comes across.
right.
And that's kind of always been the case. There's never really been for me single like, oh, a dream role or anything
Right.
like that. There's never been that. It's just like this, I don't know. It's this
It's the package.
unattainable. Yeah, yeah,
It's the
yeah,
package
yeah.
of it all.
It's this thing. It's this thing that I can't quite put my finger on, and it's this feeling.
Well, when people ask, I'm gonna say your dream role is George Surratt in Sunday in the Park with George, a
Sure,
Broadway a
sure.
West End revival. Let's throw you over to London. I think
Oh,
that's where
that'd
it
be nice.
starts. Right?
That'd be nice. That would be nice. Yeah,
I don't know who your Bernadette is, but we'll think about it.
we'll think about it. Absolutely.
um, that's great. I think, frankly,
It
I
could
think
be it
that's
could be Barrett Wilbert Weed. She
yes.
would be really great in that role, I think.
Oh boy. Oh, you just got me excited.
I'm a huge fan of hers. Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
We
Are
were
you?
doing
Yeah.
Dear Evan Hansen in DC while she was doing cabaret there as well, and she was playing
Oh,
Sally Bowles. And
yeah.
I unfortunately never got to see her do it, but I mean I just think she's an amazing actor performer.
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
And that production and that performance of Sally is like I didn't see it either, but it's historically beloved and it's something
Yeah.
I've heard about for years from
Oh,
lots of friends.
I would think so. I would think so. She's
Yeah.
wonderful, truly.
Yeah. No, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
We may have to revisit this since you are talking to a Broadway producer who loves all Sondheim musicals and loves you and Barrett. So let's just put a pin.
All right, there you go. There you
We
go.
may have to revisit this idea. All
Okay,
right,
I'm game for that.
we're at a section of the show that we don't tell our guests, but since you've listened and you're a longtime listener, first time caller, you might know about it. It's our musicals with themes lightning round, where I name a classic musical and you name the emotional theme that instinctually comes to you.
Oh
And
gosh.
we put 30 seconds on the clock and there's no wrong answer. And we just see where this free association game takes us. And,
Mm,
I in my head think, how matched up are we?
okay,
Which I
I'm
will reveal.
nervous.
I will reveal at the end. Don't be nervous. Ready?
Yes.
Go. South Pacific.
Uh, oh, an emotional feeling. Oh, warmth. Ah, fudge. I don't know.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Rock star.
Funny Girl.
Laughter.
Assassins.
Greed.
Oliver.
Oh, it's poor.
Man of La Mancha.
Dream.
La Cage aux Folles.
Ooh, fun.
Gypsy.
Yearning.
White Christmas.
Joy.
Good. You did
Was that
well.
good?
Yes, that was good.
Was
That
that
was
what
good.
you're supposed to? Is that what you're supposed to do? Is
There's no wrong
emotional? Is that
answer.
what you said? There's
There-
no wrong answer.
There's no
Oh,
wrong answer. It's
interesting.
what that title says to you. What
Hmm.
then your responses. And you gave an array. You gave emotional responses. You gave.
Thank you for feeding my ego on this trivia game because I'm very insecure.
You gave aesthetic responses. You gave.
Amazing.
You gave nostalgic responses. We got it all.
Very good.
We got
very
it
good.
all here. We got
Very
it
good.
all.
Very
Oh, God, I adore you so much, and I adored this time together.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm just so glad. Listen, this time off has been so challenging and horrible. There's very little silver lining, but I'm glad to hear that through your experiences, both before the pandemic and now during, has found some light in your world for you.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I really, I think that there is something to be said about having to kind of force yourself to sit down and just be, And it's hard. Change is hard.
Yeah.
But it's not. That doesn't mean it's not necessary or needed.
Yeah. Well,
I
I can't wait to everything that's next for you, including
thanks.
West Side Story.
Thanks, and
Mike.
I you. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day.